Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So when we think about marketing, it's really easy to assume that more is better all the time, unconditionally, that just do more, do more, do more. And I see very few people actually advocating for doing less marketing out in the world. And I also see a lot of people trying to kind of hack the system by doing batching or pre-scheduling and all these different tactics, which work for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for everybody. There's no one size fits all way to do marketing. And that's exactly why I'm looking forward to today's episode to share with you. So I had Lauren Tilden on. Now, Lauren is a marketing coach. She's on a mission to help small business owners do better marketing so they can make a bigger impact. She's an ex corporate marketer, and now she's the owner of two product based businesses and host of the Making Good podcast. She also leads the Making Good Happen community, which is a marketing membership to help embrace accountability among other people trying to market online. And unlike typical marketing agencies that do the work for you, Lauren really focuses on how to hold yourself accountable and build better habits so that you can show up authentically and consistently on social media and other platforms through your marketing. And I love that. Today, we're going to talk about a marketing plan, how to actually stick to your marketing plan, and all of the different things that can get in the way of you doing that and how to overcome them. So I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. Let's dive in. Hey, Lauren, welcome to Keep What You Earn.
Shannon, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course, I'm excited to have you. Just say hi to everyone listening and let them know who you are and what you do.
Yes. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Lauren. I am a podcast host and a marketing coach for small business owners. I actually have a background, I teach mostly marketing, and that comes from my background as a corporate marketing director. But I dropped out of the corporate world in 2017 to start a stationery business. So I currently have a stationery business. I also actually own a retail store in Seattle. And kind of between my corporate experience as a marketer and my love for small business that I learned after having worked in a couple of small businesses, I started my podcast to kind of combine my love of those two things, marketing and small business. I really believe that small businesses can and do make huge impacts on the world around us through so many different ways. And for values based and kind of mission driven small business owners, I think marketing can be one of the best ways of expanding your message, expanding your reach, expanding your impact. So my podcast is all about how to do better marketing so that you can make a bigger impact, grow your reach, and create the life for yourself and those around you that you want. So yeah, I teach marketing, I teach business, and really everything I do is at the intersection of small business and marketing because I think combined they're a magical combination.
Yes. First, before we get into that, in case anyone didn't hear the intro, what's the name of the podcast?
Oh, sorry. My podcast is called Making Good. So it's for small business owners who want to make a big impact.
Y'all, I do that all the time. I'm like, I have an amazing podcast. I'm like, what's it called? Like,
Details,
oh,
details.
yeah, like minor detail. Yes. So tell me about how you fell in love with marketing and why you're so passionate about it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't know how I fell in love with it, but I have seen its power, I guess, is probably at the root of it. I worked in corporate America for a long time. So from straight after I graduated college till I was maybe 31, 32, so about 10 years. And in it, there were always things I loved about it and always things I didn't. And after leaving, I realized what I love is actually marketing. It's how to market, marketing strategy, copywriting, email marketing in particular is kind of my love. And I did love it all on like a theoretical basis. What I didn't love is the actual businesses that I was working on. I mean, they were great businesses, but it wasn't stuff that my heart was really in. And what I've learned to be so amazing and so powerful is when you get to work on something that you really care about, that you really believe is making an impact on the world, and those around you, the ability to marketing is such a powerful tool to be able to expand everything, your reach, your money, your the impact you make. So I think that's why I love it. Yes, I love it. I think it's fun. I'm like it's like the kind of thing that I'll read about and listen to podcasts about on my own time. But I think most of all, it's what it can do for us.
I agree. I think I'm like I can relate to that because I feel like I'm a marketer disguised as a CPA. Like I love marketing, but I also do the numbers, which is just a rare combination.
But an
It is.
amazing one.
Yeah, it's really fun. Here we are. Keep what you earn. Talk to me, Lauren. You mentioned making an impact. That's a huge part of what you do. How do you connect marketing with making an impact?
Yeah. It's a really good question, and I think it's one that I'm really glad we're talking about because so many small business owners, I know your audience and my audience as well, are really resistant to marketing because you have an idea of what marketing is. It feels kind of like smarmy and sleazy and like you're pushing yourself on people, and that feels really uncomfortable. And I just want to invite everyone to like, you get to decide how you approach marketing. And why I think it can be so powerful is that it really anything you want to grow in your business, marketing is a great path for that. So if you want to make more revenue and income, marketing is a path to do that. And with that, with those more sales and more revenue, you can donate money, you can be a really good employer, you can give back in other ways. When you have better marketing, you can expand your network and your connections. And through that, you can encourage other people to kind of lead with their values and you can advocate for things that you believe in. With greater marketing, you can build stronger relationships with your customers and get to know them better and get to serve them better. And it's just anything that you want in your business. There's usually a way to say, okay, how can I use marketing to help me get this? How can I use marketing to help me spread the word about this thing I care about? How can I use marketing to help me raise money for this thing that matters to me? So to me, it's just this kind of like magical creative tool that any problem in your business, just about any problem in your business, there's probably a few exceptions. You can apply some creative marketing thinking to it and generate some results and some impact. And I guess I just encourage anyone who feels hesitant about marketing or like it's icky or sleazy that there's no one right way to do it. There are certainly people who do things in their marketing that I don't agree with and that I personally would never choose to do. And it's up to all of us to decide what matters to us, like where's the line in the sand of things we will and won't do, what our values are when it comes to marketing. I just encourage my audience and my community members to really think about the person on the other end of every marketing interaction and know that like they're not a dollar sign, they are a person with feelings and like there's I encourage my audience, for example, like if you're going to appeal to people's emotions, not to use that power for bad, not to agitate people's pain points or not to like pour salt in the wound to get them to buy things. There are certainly ways that marketing can be done, in my opinion, unethically, but it's up to all of us to decide. You do not have to do anything that rubs you the wrong way. And there's always a way to do it in a good way that feels good for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's a tool that you can wield in any way you want, right? It's just like money. It's just a tool that you can use to exert influence in any direction you so choose. And it's a tool that actually, and this is something I'm a big proponent of the idea that you are so much better off if you can buy choices in your life. So you can make decisions that enable you to have more choices later. And I think marketing is one of the biggest tools that enables you to have different choices on how you spend your time, your money, your energy, because using my business as an example, right? I really focus on marketing from day one. And now I realize I can pivot my business. I could do something completely different, but I have a personal brand behind me and I have, this show, I have other things that I can use that is considered marketing that will enable me to basically choose how I want to deliver my offers. Like I don't have to be in one hole pigeonholed because we have a good marketing plan, a good marketing method. And I wanted to ask you, springboarding off of that, like how you actually define marketing, like what it is and what it isn't.
Yeah, to me, marketing is about communicating what you have to offer. And that's done in a lot of different ways. That's done through your brand, your look and feel. It's done through the content you create. It's even done through what people talk about or say about your brand when you're not even there. But to me, it's about what I really focus most on is the content element. So I think in today's world, it's really important to be creating content that represents your brand and that serves your customers. And to me, that is the key to building those relationships, building that know, like, and trust that is eventually going to lead to sales and to loyal customers who come back, which is one of the most magical things that we can have in our businesses. So I think it's really important to talk about things like marketing and sales and advertising and promotion in very human language. Like, it's what you have to offer, it's how you communicate what you're about. Like, there's no need to make it complicated. I was doing a presentation within my membership and I got the definition of marketing from the American Marketing Association. And I don't have it memorized, but it was like so convoluted and like confusing. And it used so many big, confusing words and jargon. And it's just, it's no wonder that marketing has such like a bad rap where it feels intimidating or whatever. But when it comes down to it, it's really just about like, what are you about? What do you have to offer? I think the three key questions that I encourage everyone to answer, kind of as the foundation of strong marketing, would be who is your product for? So, who's your ideal customer? What do you have to offer? Marketers call this your value proposition. And what's your unique selling point, or what makes you different from the competition or everyone else who's selling something similar? And I think if you have the answers to those three questions, your ideal customer, your value proposition, and your unique selling point, you're in a really strong position that most people actually aren't in. Most people don't take the time to like think through the strategy. But if you do know the answers to those questions, you have a very big head start in figuring out how to communicate, where to show up, what kind of content to create.
Absolutely agree. But where people get stuck, I feel like conceptually maybe they can answer those questions.
Mhm.
But then it gets into the execution. Then it gets into the actual creation. It gets into the okay, now I have to go do what? I have to go create content that relates to all that. Like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of I think it's left brain. Are we left brain accountants? I don't know. Are like the left brain people, the logical people who are like who are less creative, maybe, or even the creatives who are just like overwhelmed, right? It becomes a lot of overwhelm and a lot of, okay, I have to do all these things right now. Let's talk about the marketing plan and where that comes in and what you advocate for when it comes to actually planning out your marketing.
Yeah. Love this. My favorite thing is getting tactical. So I'm so glad we're going to get into some step by steps here. I think the number one element, and I'll take you through a bunch of steps for creating a marketing plan that you can actually stick to, like which, like you said, is really where the magic happens. You can create a very great, beautiful plan, but if you don't do anything about it, it doesn't matter. So
Right.
it's really critical that we create a plan that will actually get executed. And I do have some good tips to share with your audience about that. I think the number one thing I want to say first is that the element that is the underpinning of this is the concept of intention. Because, like you say, marketing can do anything for you. It can help you grow your business in this way. It can help you like start a wholesale program. It can help you like, there's so many different things that marketing can do. And if you're just looking around at what you see everyone else doing, like, oh, they seem to be posting this many times, or they're on TikTok, or they have a podcast, like you don't know the intention and you actually don't know the results of what anyone else is doing when it comes to marketing. So intention, which is to say, what do you want this to do for you, is the number one most key element of any marketing plan. So the
I
steps that
agree.
I would suggest folks go through is first is that intention piece. Like, define your goals. What is your goal in your business? And specifically, I think it's helpful to narrow it down. Like, don't have 500 goals, have one or two. Like, what are your one or two biggest, most important goals for the next 6 months, let's say? Maybe that's grow your revenue by 10% or launch a new offer and have X many clients. Or, maybe your goal could be like, run your business, be able to pay yourself a decent amount in only 10 hours a week. Like, your goal can be anything, but get very clear on what your goal is first. Number two, you want to get clear on your bandwidth. And this is actually the piece that I think more people miss than anyone or than anything else. Is it's very easy to look around, to do your research on all the different kinds of marketing you could be doing, to get really inspired, and then to say like, I'm going to pitch myself for 20 new stores each week. I'm going to send PR pitches. I'm going to apply for podcasts. I'm going to post every single day on Instagram, send two marketing. Like, you can make a very, very elaborate plan. And what happens, most of us do this. And then after a day or two or a week, we fall off the wagon because it's not actually something we have the bandwidth to execute. We get
Mhm.
really discouraged. We feel bad. We stop. Don't post anything until we like summon the courage and the enthusiasm again to start over and then do the same thing. Overcommit, bite off way more than we can chew, inevitably not be able to stick to it, and then start over. So
Yep.
it's so important to actually ask yourself, how many hours a week do I have to work on marketing? If the answer is one, that is really good to know. And you're not going to be able to do every single thing you probably want to start out with. And that's okay. Like consistently doing some things intentionally is way better than, having set yourself up not to be able to follow through. So figure out how many hours per week you have to actually do marketing. The third step, in my opinion, is to get those like strategic elements nailed down. So we just talked about those. Know who you're serving, who's your ideal customer, what do you have to offer? Like what is it you're actually selling? And then what sets you apart? Why should people buy from you versus anyone else? The next step after that is to choose your platforms. So figure out what based on your goals, what makes most sense. So for example, if your goal is to trying to think of a way to apply this to know your audience is a lot of accountants.
As small business owners of all types, creatives, entrepreneurs, online business
Okay.
owners.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So if your goal was to get your products sold in stores, the way that you'd want to spend that limited amount of marketing time would be very different than if your goal was to sell through your website to retail customers. So, knowing exactly what your goals are, you want to pick your platforms. So, is it showing up on social media? If so, which platforms? If so, based on the time you have, how much? Like 2 posts and a reel and 4 days on stories, let's say, for example, maybe you have time for that. Or one marketing email per week. For me, a very big piece and something I recommend to just about everyone is long form content because that is a very long lifespan. So obviously, Shannon, you're a fan of this as a
I
podcaster,
am.
but long form content applies to things that have a longer shelf life, basically, than social media. So a podcast, YouTube, blogs are a great thing for this. So whatever it is, based on that bandwidth you have, lining up what platforms are you going to use and what is your schedule. So, I do one email a month or one email a week is my recommendation. And email, I would say when I help people create their marketing plans, I never dictate platforms. I never say you have to be on Instagram. It's the only way to grow your business. There's really none of that, I believe. There's so many ways to, I won't say skin a cat because I hate that expression, but there's so many ways
Yeah.
to like,
Achieve the same objective, yeah.
thank you, achieve the same objective. But the one exception, like I have not encountered a business in my time as a small business marketing educator. I've not encountered a single business yet that email marketing doesn't make sense for. So I'd really encourage you to prioritize email marketing. And if you want to chat about why, DM me because this could be a whole episode about email. It is just like,
Oh, and we've done several on it, yeah.
oh,
It's
good,
very
good.
much yeah, we advocate for the list you own always,
Yeah.
always.
The list you own. And it's actually if your social media posts, for example, get seen by 5% of your audience, anyone who is subscribed to be on your email list, they will see it in their inbox, assuming you don't do something like to get you in the spam filter. You're competing with so much less, like not a million social media posts, but just whatever they got in their email that morning. And yeah, it's just studies, data show that it is much more effective when it comes to generating a relationship, one, but probably more importantly to most of us, sales. So
Mhm.
if you want to be making sales in your business, and you don't think email is a good fit for you, like please DM me or DM Shannon. I'm sure either of us would be happy to chat you off the ledge there. So
Oh,
when it comes to choosing your platforms, there's again no right way to do it. There's no social media platform you have to be on or you have to be doing this kind of reels. You do want to think about where is your ideal customer hanging out. That's a good way to choose your platforms and also what comes naturally to you. Because I could say like I want to do a face to camera reel every single day and that might work for me, but if I'm not gonna do it, if it's gonna take me so much more time than it needs to do, like, it just might not be the right choice for me. So,
yep.
if you can find something, even, like, in the smallest way to be a little bit excited about, I think that enthusiasm is very powerful when it comes to marketing. So, if you're even just a little bit excited about podcasting, like, maybe that's something to try.
I can speak for that from experience too, because I this is it's gonna sound so funny and stupid, but I started a podcast because I wanted to be on social and I wanted to get my message out in my voice, but I was like, I don't wanna be on camera because I don't wanna have to keep putting a bra on every time I turn the camera on. I didn't wanna do the makeup. I literally said, "I don't wanna put a bra on. What can I do without a bra?" Ah. So I was like,
Amazing.
I can literally do this in my jammies at 11 p.m. when I feel an idea coming on. I don't have to you wanna lower the barrier to creation. That is how I put it.
Yes.
Like, you wanna lower the barrier to creation, so, like, nothing gets in the way of you going and making a thing, and it becomes convenient and almost habitual, because that's been the biggest thing, is, like, creating habit around the content creation as opposed to making it like this painful checklist you have to fill out, right?
100%. I think friction is the word that comes to mind when you're
Yeah.
talking about it. Friction is anything that slows you down or makes it harder or makes it less likely that you're actually gonna follow through. If you know that, like, you just have this feeling in your body that if something on your plan is film a video every day, that's if that just feels like it has friction to you, that might be a good like, you don't have to do short form video. You just don't. I
Yeah.
rarely do, and, like, have still been able to grow my business very effectively. So, all this to say, I would encourage you to use email. It's good to aim for 1 email a week, 2 a month at minimum. Other than that, I don't think there needs to be anything dictated about what you do in terms of your marketing, as long as you are choosing activities that make sense given your goal. So that would be step 5, is to commit to that schedule. The next
Mhm.
step is to lay out a month. So I like to plan content month by month, and I'll pull up a month calendar. I'll say, okay, I'm doing 1 email a week. Here's when those are going out. I'm doing 3 social media posts. Here's when those are going out. I'm doing a podcast once a week. Here's when those are going out. And then the next step I do, and this is really up to you, but I like to also just pencil in one sentence, what is that piece of content about? So, in one sentence, what is this podcast episode about? In one sentence, what is this email about? In one sentence, what is this Instagram carousel post about? To me, that is a surprisingly magical tool for being able to sit down and actually create content. Because if I sit down and it's like, I need to write a podcast episode, like, that is not enough direction for me to know where to start. Whereas if I sit down to create content and I look at my plan, it says, okay, you're writing a podcast episode about the power of accountability. Like, that is enough for me to get going. So even just giving yourself that starting point, I think is really magical. I don't create all my content in advance. And that will probably surprise some people, because a lot of marketing educators talk about, like, batching it all at once and getting it pre-scheduled. If you can do that, awesome. That's just not really how I operate. I'm more of like a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. So what I do plan out in advance is, what is each thing about? And I plan out in advance, when is it going out? Like, every Tuesday is my podcast. Every weekday, actually, I have a podcast episode for my membership. Every Wednesday, there's a Substack. Like, I have my content schedule, but I tend to create a little bit later than a lot of other people do. And that works for me. So I would just encourage you to do what works for you. If you find that, like, you don't have the time 3 times a week to sit down and create content, batching might be a better approach.
That's true, and we talk about the importance of being able to follow through and be accountable to your plan, but maybe your plan is just to carve out some time each day to go do today's post, and that's okay for you. Like, it doesn't have to be one way or the other. And I think a lot of people do it in advance just to alleviate themselves from the daily task, but, like, there's other stuff you do every day. It's just this is more of a habit for Lauren. This is more of a habit for some people that they're used to and they like, and it's part of their day, and it's just that's how it is. There's no right or wrong way to do it, right?
Totally. I think if you are someone who really does have that feeling of, like, I hate marketing, or, like, it feels icky to me to be on social media, or I hate doing this or that, it might suggest that just, sitting down once a week, or once a month even, and scheduling it all out so that you're not having to spend time in those platforms doing that kind of thing more often, maybe that would be a direction to go in. To me, I really try to lean into what I like doing and, like, create content I'm excited to create. And this is actually another, like, marketing tip, is the content that performs best for me is always stuff that, like, I'm there, I'm, like, in it, I'm feeling excited about it, I have something to say, and I would say whenever you can talk about things that you genuinely care about, your content's gonna perform better, but yes. So
I would tend to agree, yeah, for sure. I had a question for you. When it
mhm,
comes to outsourcing your social
mhm.
media and content creation, I'm going to ask if you have a strong opinion on that, because I know a lot of people who think like that, who go, I don't want to do that. icky, whatever, or annoying or just time consuming, right? They're overwhelmed and they go, the first thing they do is, I need a social media manager. I need a VA. I need a this to go do that for me. Talk to me about your opinion on outsourcing in terms of when to and why to.
Hmm. My priority with marketing is that it gets done. Like
Okay.
that if you say it's important to me to have 1 email a week and 2 posts a week on social and this and that, that it actually happens. And if you think the only way that it's gonna happen is to outsource it and to invest money in that so that you can spend your time doing other things, that's I support that. I I think it's gonna always be most effective if it comes from you. At least the more that it comes from you, the better. Because for most of I think the small business owners listening, like you are your business in a lot of ways. Like the spirit, the heart, the voice, the values, the beliefs, like what you care about, the quirks, like that's you.
It's
It's not just
trust. It's
yeah.
trust. You have to build trust with people. And one of the best ways to do that is have them know your voice, right?
Yeah. Totally. So I think it's always gonna be best if it can be you, but I hesitate to say like, no, you have to do it because for some people that's gonna mean that's just not happening at all. And I think it is important that something happens, that there is content being put out there, that you're getting in front of people, that you're getting your brand seen. I used to be really in the camp of like super high quality content or nothing. And I've actually changed my tune on that a little bit. I feel like it is important to just be putting stuff out there. Of course, high quality is great. Of course, intention is great. Of course, like really valuable content is great. I stand behind that 1,000%. But if the option is it's at this like level of 100% A plus quality or it's nothing, a 10 out of 10 times, I'm going to say like, let it be a B. Like
Yeah.
put B quality stuff out there. And if that means someone else is doing it for you, like that's fine.
It will actually let the A plus stand out more.
Hmm.
And I think it's and by the way, quality doesn't mean like production value, videos, lighting, camera, audio quality, colors, whatever. Quality also means content itself, like the actual value of what you're saying. Like if you have a thoughtful post, something with intention, or if you just feel like sharing your random thoughts of the day, or I mean, you can always go back to like, here's what I'm reading right now, here's what I'm listening to right now, and what I'm learning from it. Like you can always anchor back to these other things that where you don't have to be a 24/7 thought leader.
1,000%. Like, and I'm really glad that you said that about quality because I forget that it has that other connotation of like production value, like you said, like, and actually, I think a lot of times what I resonate more and what I know a lot of my audience does is not the like super polished, super high production value stuff. It's like the real person who's sharing something they know. So for me, when I say value, it's content that is giving something. Maybe that's entertainment, maybe that's a laugh, maybe that's like an inspiring message. Maybe it's helping you like form a relationship with me because I'm sharing personal things that I feel comfortable sharing. And then of course, sometimes it's education. So it's teaching you how to do something. But value does not have to be like studio quality PowerPoints, like course content. Value can be so many things as long as it's about mm, serving in some way, and serving doesn't have to only be education. So, I think that's
I would
such an
agree.
important point. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, that's so true. And like you said, removing the friction. So my thought would be when it comes like the outsourcing piece is I think people jump to the outsourcing and they don't first revisit how do I remove friction. And I
Mhm,
think that's one of the things that people do it too soon very often because they don't try to resolve the friction problem first. They don't try to make content creation easier for themselves. And like you said, it's this all or nothing thing where they go, it's fully outsourced or I do nothing because I don't know how to infuse these habits that are easier for me and that work with my life, my lifestyle, my schedule, and they go, I can't figure out how to do this, and therefore I'm going to fully outsource. But I think that's where the plan comes in because you can actually
mhm,
sit down and go, what can I realistically accomplish? Like, what are the
yeah,
actual literal actions I can take? With my CFO clients, Lauren, what we do is my literal favorite exercise I ever do with a business owner is I go, what are your goals? And then they will tell me a number. And I go,
mhm,
no. What's the goal? What does that buy you? Right?
mhm,
And we get into the dollars. But then I go, well, how many widgets do you have to sell to make that happen? And now they've connected the goal to an outcome and then to an action. And I
Mhm.
go, we have to strip it down to the actions and say, if your goal is to grow on social media, again, why? Right? To make more sales, to make more conversions, whatever the intention is. And then we extract it down into the actions, which is your plan.
Mhm.
And once you have the actions, I feel like there's so much clarity on, okay, if I want to pitch myself for a show once a week. I want to go make these posts for social media. I need to write X number of captions. You can write all these ideas out. I'm going to listen to, here's another one. I'm going to listen to 3 shows a week and extract out a takeaway and make a post about that. Like, it doesn't always
Mhm.
have to be like from the gut, from scratch every time. And that's what I think people assume. So let's talk about
Mhm.
like ways to remove friction and stay accountable and consistent.
Yeah. That's such an interesting ladder of like, first, try to remove the friction. And then second, if like you've done everything you can and it just really is not your thing and you cannot find a way to like integrate it into your life and your zone of genius, then that might be a time to outsource. And
Right.
I guess I agree with that completely. I think my stance is just outsource if that's the only way that it's going to happen
Yeah.
because marketing, I believe,
And it doesn't have to be 100% outsource.
yeah,
You can outsource one piece of it that you're not an expert in, like the editing or the whatever, right? There's
yeah,
the whole spectrum, guys, of like it's not all or nothing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so ways to remove friction. I think, and it's a perfect lead into my last step in this planning process, which is to make it stick, which is again where the magic happens. Like if you create this elaborate plan that is very intentional and has all the right activities on it and is targeted to your ideal customer, but you don't actually execute it, like nothing matters. It's like, yeah, so there's no point in creating a plan that you will not actually stick to. And for me, the number one most let me say the two most powerful ways of sticking to your plan, and as you say, removing friction. One is lowering the bar. So allowing yourself to not aim for A plus quality every single time. Being willing to say, you know what, I have 20 minutes. I have this thing on my plan today. I'm going to do a short email and it's going to go out. Or I'm going to repurpose something I did before. Or I'm going to go through my insights and see what has, what did people really resonate with and like how can I spin that a little bit and create another version of it. So lowering the bar, like letting yourself do it at 80% instead of 100% is such powerful permission that I know I it's still hard for me to give myself that permission, but it really does matter. And I'll say that a lot of the things that I've created that I felt like I was kind of phoning it in on, like I wasn't going all out. Like sometimes that's the stuff people relate to the most because it's more unpolished. Like we said, it's more just like off the cuff. Sometimes it's more honest when you've like edited a little bit less. So you never know. Just being willing to put things out there at like, yes, adding value 80% of the time at least, but it doesn't have to be a work of art every single time. So lowering your bar is number one. And number two is accountability, which really has been the game changer for me in every part of my life. Anything I've ever wanted to do consistently, the thing that has made me be able to do that is building in accountability. I've always wanted to be the kind of person that didn't need it, could just make a plan, not tell anyone about it, execute it consistently. And some people can do that brilliantly. That's just not my nature. So when I started learning how to build accountability into things I really cared about doing, the game completely changed. So there are so many ways to do this. I would suggest thinking about it in a few different ways. So you can build accountability with your team if you have one, but if you don't have a team, you can build accountability with your audience. And I'll share some examples of that. You can build accountability with your peers, so other small business owners who are working on similar types of projects, you can build it in with them, and then your customers. So let me give you some examples. For me, I have a podcast that comes out every Tuesday and it has since 2020. And that I've never in my life until I started doing this done anything so consistently. And what
Same.
I really? Yeah, your
Same. Yeah.
comes out every day, right?
Yeah, I've never been so committed to a consistent habit. I wish I went to the gym like I do this. I really do.
Same. Yeah. So you and I need to like meet at the gym and then we will have the accountability
We
to
gotta bring
actually
our
do it.
damn microphones and then we'll do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Just podcast on the treadmill.
yeah. No one wants to hear that huffing and puffing, that's so awkward.
I know.
The consistency, isn't that funny? Yeah, no, you're right. That's the number one consistent habit. There's my number one reason for not starting is I was afraid I was gonna be
Inconsistent.
inconsistent.
Mhm. But you knew that people expected it. And and
Yeah, I
I'm guessing
committed.
that that's why you followed through, which is that, like, accountability. For me, I said, I make a point of talking all the time about how my podcast comes out every single Tuesday. And there have been a couple of weeks where I haven't had it ready to go first in the morning, and I get a message from someone saying, "Oh, like, I don't see it in my app." Like, is like,
Ooh.
that's happened for me a few times, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh," like, people really do notice if it's not coming out. And so, it's just like it happens no matter what now. And I can give you a perfect example of this. We had a as we're recording this, it's right after Memorial Day. It was a long weekend this week. Tuesday is when I got back from Bend, spending time with my family. I did not have my podcast episode done, and I got home at like 7:30, and like all I wanted to do was go to bed. But I was like, "You know what? Like I'm tired from my long weekend. I was out in the sun, but I know people are expecting it. Like I need to get this out before midnight." And I did it, and, like, I'm not saying we need to, like, hustle all night to, like, work all night, but the only I can tell you for a fact, the only reason that podcast episode came out was because of the accountability of, like, I know people expect it to come out on Tuesdays. So if I think this is really powerful when it comes to content creation because if you can create some kind of schedule, like my podcast comes out on Tuesdays, my email newsletter comes out on Fridays, or my I do an Instagram live every Thursday, whatever it is, if you can have that consistent day of the week where you know you can talk about it, you know people are expecting it, you will be much more likely to actually do it and to not fall off the chain.
It's expectation setting.
Yeah.
And then when you fall short on people's expectations, it also makes a big impact. So you don't I mean, for the people pleasers in us,
Yeah.
it's huge. So if you know you're one of us, like the people pleasers, it's like go tell everyone you're gonna go do something, and then you don't wanna you're so hell bent on not disappointing them that you'll go do it.
100%. Sometimes I've done this with product launches with, like, my stationery line. I'll say, "My new collection's coming out June 3rd," and I haven't done anything yet. But, like, I gave the
Put it out
date,
there.
so now I know I have to make it happen. Whereas
Yep.
if I don't have a date that I've given other people, I'll just be like, that's when the perfectionism can really run the show because 'cause I'll be like, I don't know exactly what's gonna be included in the collection, like, I just need a few more weeks to, like, paint or whatever, so putting those dates out there, like talk about those dates over and over again, put the stake in the sand, like let people expect it from you, and you will very likely show up and follow through. Another way of using accountability is literally working with other people. So, co working sessions, like it could be getting on Zoom with someone and saying, hey, let's spend the next hour writing podcast content or, you know, social media content, whatever it is. Check in, say what you're committing to doing in the beginning of the call, and then an hour later, check back in and say, like, how'd you do? I actually do this in my membership program. We plant trees for every big task that we get done. So we go in the beginning and say, this is what I'm working on, these three tasks in the next 90 minutes. And at the end, we plant a tree for every single task that got done. So you can motivate yourself in all kinds of different ways. And then the other thing would be accountability with your customers. So if someone has bought something from you, you can have an automated system that says, you can expect this in 2 to 4 days, or like, you can expect this in the next 7 days. And knowing that that expectation has been set with someone who bought something from you is a very powerful way of like making sure that you prioritize like getting that out the door as soon as you can instead of like delaying or being a perfectionist about it. I know I used to
Yeah.
do a lot of custom paintings for my stationery line. And if I just said like, oh, I'll have this done sometime in the next few weeks, it was perfectionism. I wanted to do such a good job that it made me not start. But if I set a date and said this will be delivered by this day, then I just had to start because I knew they were expecting it. So it's kind of unbelievable to me how powerful accountability is. It's free. You can set it up for yourself, like in a million different ways, but just making sure that other people are expecting things from you is such a powerful way of getting things done. And I think
Yeah.
you start to build this confidence. Like maybe you feel the same, Shannon. I felt like such a flaky, inconsistent person before I started my podcast because I had no track record of wanting to do something and following through on it. And I just like felt so bad about myself for that reason. And it doesn't have to be like that. Like you just have to find what is it that's going to make you do the things that you want to do. And for me, it's accountability. And for so many other people, it's accountability. So,
And yeah, it's not for lack of motivation to do it. It's there's something ingrained, like it call it whatever it is, because I always say this, guys, like Enneagram 3, manifesting generator,
yeah.
whatever it is, right? So I yeah,
Are you both of those things?
yes.
High
Which I
five.
figured you were too. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's game.
So, that's our like, I wanna get shit done, and if I can't do it fast, I'm gonna start it and go on to the next thing that's more fun next. Like, I can't stick with a thing to fruition if it takes a long time. So, I celebrate accomplishment, not progress, and that's really hard because when you can't celebrate the accomplishment, you have a lot of time in the progress zone, you get a little antsy, you get, like, restless, and you're like, "But I want the trophy. I wanna finish." So, and we always rush things. Like, I want done is better than perfect all the time, but that also means, like, I've started a lot of projects I haven't finished, and that means that the podcast itself, I was like, "Uh-oh." Like, like, the problem is that present Shannon writes checks that future Shannon has to cash.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it can be a great accountability tool if you're like us, if you're wired like us, because we don't wanna disappoint that commitment, but also we wanna show up and cash the check, right? But also, when you're making those promises for your future self, you're doing it in a state of like, I know I wanna make this commitment, and I know later me will be tempted not to. I know that I'm gonna try to flake out on this. It's literally like a weight loss journey. It's like, I'm gonna put the damn workout in the calendar and schedule someone to come and train me, because then I won't show up if it's just on me. But if I'm disappointing someone else and, like, they're missing out on income and they're missing out on this, oh my god, that affects me so much that I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna start committing to things and then figuring out how to show up and actually do it. And trust me, my brain will talk me out of every single commitment I make, because in that moment, I just don't want to do it right then and there. But it's not for the lack of motivation overall. It's just this habit. It's weird. It's how we're wired.
I That could have come straight from my brain. That was
I don't get it.
scary. Yeah. Yeah, and it's not my favorite thing about myself. Like, I wish I didn't
Same.
need, like, the
So
the
much external
forcing
motivation.
factors,
Yeah.
but I do, and it's really important to know that. Like, now that I do, like, I can't if there's something I really want, I just ask myself, like, "How can I make this inevitable? How can I make it a certainty that this will happen?" And for me, the answer is accountability and letting myself do it badly even, like giving permission to not be an awesome podcaster in the beginning. And then
Oh,
like over
absolutely.
time, you know,
Mhm.
there's this amazing quote by Ira Glass that I don't have recited. I'll send it to you and maybe you can link it in the show notes. But it's
I
about this
will.
concept of the gap and how when if you're a creative person or someone who's creating something in the world, it might not be art, but like a business, let's say, you have the reason that you wanna create it is that you have this vision, and the vision is what makes you realize the gap between your current skill level and, like, where you wanna be, and it's just, like, this inevitable part of the process of, like, when you start building something, when you start creating something, your work is gonna disappoint you to an extent, like, it's not gonna be where you want it to be, because it's the vision that will ultimately take you to where you do wanna be, but you have to be willing to
Right.
just, like, not be awesome at it for a while, and that's really hard,
Yeah.
especially if you're, like, perfectionist or, like, high achiever. I can't tell you how hard it was. I still edit a lot of my podcasts, but in the beginning, I edited all of them, and the first few ones I edited, I was like, "Am I really gonna put this out into the world? This is so cringy, like, I cannot listen to myself for one more word." And now I listen sometimes, like, I'm subscribed to my own podcast, and I don't listen to every episode, but sometimes if I'm in the car, like, it'll be the next one that comes on, and I'm like, "Oh, that was kinda smart." Like, I it's totally
I do.
changed
I
over
listen to
time.
it like it's new. I listen to them like they're new. I listen to all the guest ones. You guys, I'm admitting this to you. I listen to all the guest ones over when I'm so I can really listen to what they're saying and let it sink in without being in the moment in the room and thinking of the next question, right? So
Yeah.
I'm fully engaged in what they're saying and how they're articulating it, right? But it's the same thing. I listen to my own and I go, that was actually really well organized considering I did that on the fly in my pajamas in the middle of the night. Like, that was pretty
Yeah.
good. Like,
That's a
it's
good
interesting,
question.
and yeah, exactly. And I want to go back to this point of like the accountability, but I think it all starts with self-awareness. I think you have to hack your own instincts. You have to hack your own like nature and go, how will I personally sabotage this from happening? And how do I install obstacles to prevent that from happening? And that doesn't
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with us, right? But like we know where we naturally gravitate, like we naturally veer to the right. So it's like let's throw a bumper there so that we don't fall off the road. Like let's just make sure, right? We have
Totally.
a heavy hand that way. So but it's having that self-awareness, guys, to be able to say, I know how I will on a default level operate, and knowing that is everything because then you can install consciously the roadblocks in the way of making that happen.
Mhm. 100%. And I I think I'm not an expert on this methodology, but if you're into Gretchen Rubin, she has a
Mhm.
concept called the 4 tendencies. You can take a quiz on her website. I'll send you the link. But there's a tendency basically, it's about what motivates you to do things. And there's a type of person called the obliger where you'll do things for other people because you don't want to disappoint other people, but if it's just for yourself, you're likely to disappoint yourself or like you'll let yourself down because you're always going to react to the things for other people in the moment. So, anyway, I am an
I think that's a
obliger.
lot of us. I think that's a
Yeah,
lot of us. I think a lot of business owners are kinda like that. I think
especially
that's
service
natural.
providers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially those in the service businesses for sure. Those of you listening, like you're not alone. It's totally us.
Mm-mm.
100%. And that's the importance of understanding the accountability aspect and how to actually execute on that. So real quick, Lauren, how do people work with you to get their marketing plan sorted out and to actually put this into action and build those different things to get in the way of them veering off the road?
Yes. Well, first of all, you can listen to my podcast. I have tons of free information over there. I do talk a ton about marketing because as you probably have gathered, that's where my heart is at, but I also share a lot about mindset stuff and like how behavior because I find that that is the critical second piece is making sure that you'll do something about what you know and what you learn and all the strategy actually gets implemented. So my podcast again, thank you for the reminder, is called Making Good and you can find it anywhere. Just search Making Good. And then the other way to work with me on a more personal level and to get access to my private podcast, which has a daily episode, is through my membership program. And that's called Making Good Happen. And it's all about this piece, really. It's all about, yes, making the plan, but also executing on it. So there's all kinds of events in there. Zoom co-working, we have something called deep work sessions, which are not on Zoom for those of us who don't like video. It's like an old school analog AOL style chat room. We have strategy sessions. We do hot seats, which is a way of getting other people's eyes on your businesses and other people's brainstorming on any problems or help that you need support with. We've got a super active Slack community. So if you want to learn more about making good happen, you can go to makinggoodhappen.co, not .com.co. And then if you need kind of a starting point when it comes to content creation, if you're like, I've carved out the time in my calendar, but I have no idea what to say in my content, I have a resource for free that you can download. It's called 100 Content Prompts. And it has just 100 starting points of like, create a piece of content about this. Or what about something like this? What's your why? What's your origin story? How did you name your business? Like just these little prompts that get you going. It's not going to be a copy or paste like it's going to help you create content that is genuine to you and authentic to you, but it is that starting point. So you can find
And
that
how
at
many
me
were there? How many was that?
100.
100. So, guys, that's 2 a week for a year.
Yeah, it's pretty
There you
good.
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That is at makinggoodpodcast.com/100 prompts, 100 prompts. Yeah. And then I'm on
And
Instagram if you want to chat. Lauren
amazing.
Tilden.
We're gonna link all of that in the show notes, guys. Lauren, what was the handle again?
Lauren Tilden.
Lauren Tilden, at Lauren Tilden. So you can find more about Lauren on all those different links, all those different platforms. Give her a shout out. Post a little snippet of this episode if you're listening on your phone. Go grab a screenshot right now, put it on your stories, and tag me and Lauren. We'd love to hear that you're listening to this and what your biggest takeaway was. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Shannon, thank you so much for having me. This was fun and blast.
Did you enjoy this episode but want to explore more on this topic? Or maybe you have questions for me and our guests. One of the best parts of doing this podcast is interacting with you in the Keep What You Earn community. This community is a completely free resource for you to ask questions, chat about our episodes, and to connect with us on our monthly calls. Yes, all for free. We host this community on a platform called Circle, so you won't be bogged down by Facebook notifications or get your posts buried in the mix. So click the link in the show notes to join us in the community right now. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.